Welcome back to another episode of Holistic Soul Sister TV. We are continuing on with our primary practitioner episodes, introducing you to the most wonderful, amazing practitioners that we have welcomed into the Holistic Soul Sister community, into our tribe. And I have worked with this woman for over a year, and she has changed my life in a very short 12 months. You've probably heard me talk about her, not by name, but in all of my astrology videos or any really astrology birth chart reading I do. When I talk to someone about their North Node, I always say your North Node is your North Star. It's the energy you have to learn to embody in this lifetime. And it's a foreign land, a foreign concept. You don't understand it. It feels hella uncomfortable. But if you want an astrology cheat sheet, find you a best friend with that same sun sign, because they're going to help you get to your North Node. And that has been the case for me. With our amazing practitioner today, Lisa Marie. I met Lisa at a networking event. As many of you know my story, I moved and uprooted my entire life to this little area of Tampa called Apollo Beach. Had no idea what to expect. Had to change my whole life, my friendship circle, my clients, my business. And so I wander off to this networking meeting where I think it's going to be a bunch of stuffy old white men. And I go, you know what? Warren Buffett said, millionaires don't need astrologers, billionaires do. So off Mandy hikes in her spiritual hippie outfit. Oh, yes. And I show up at this network meeting and I just introduce myself as an astrologer. And Lisa was there, and she has a business called Creating Shades. She does window treatments and helps people's homes look even more beautiful. And so there's something in our connection, and she heard what I did, spiritual community, spiritual work. And she's like, hey, we should meet up for ice cream. And I was like, okay. We go to Armetta's. And we just vibed. We totally vibed. I felt your energy. You had so much wisdom and knowledge and experience, not only in the spiritual space, but like in life in general. And that's really where it began for us.
It was.
And in this last year, she has helped me embody my North Node Aries to really just take action in my life, to stop sitting on the ideas, to stop contemplating if I'm doing the right thing. She has encouraged me to expand in so many ways.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm just honored that you're here today, helping our Holistic Soul Sisters expand in many ways. A quick little introduction, and Lisa's going to talk all about it today, but she is truly an alchemist, a transformer, a woman that can go to the darkest places with you. So you don't have to go alone. And I get goosebumps when I talk about it. And so she's all the things. She's a coach. She's a mentor. She's a healer. She's a leader. She's everything that someone would need when they are going through their dark night of the soul.
Can I bring you with me everywhere I go?
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I am.
Yeah. I see you for who you are.
Yes, you do, and I love you for it.
So welcome to our community. Welcome to our tribe.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this podcast episode with us.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm thrilled to be here because Holistic Soul Sisters is wonderful, but Mandy Rose is not. I mean, I'm glad I've impacted your life, but you have definitely made an impact on mine. This last year has been much better because you've been in my life.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
We have vibed together. We have grown together.
We've grown together. We've helped each other kind of search things out together. I mean, it has been an experience.
So when we start off any one of our primary practitioner interviews, what our Holistic Soul Sisters want to know, first and foremost, is what is your sun, moon, and rising?
Aries. So my sun and moon are Aries. My rising is actually a Gemini, so I stay true to the fire. And my North Node is Aries. So,
yes.
Yes.
You bring all the Aries energy.
I bring all the Aries energy without a doubt.
So then we talk about Holistic Soul Sisters, healing holistically and growing spiritually. So what is your current favorite healing modality?
You're going to have to say teas.
Mm-hmm.
I got into teas, these holistic teas. And it's funny because it came at me from a couple of different directions. One with a very beautiful person who is a herbalist, and she's very informed on things. And she just introduced me to these wonderful healing teas. And then on the other side, she calls herself she's definitely the hippie mama, but with the Hippie Haven, which is a nonprofit, and she is very much into holistic teas. So I started drinking these teas for all these different reasons and realized that, boy, they are definitely potent.
Yeah.
So they are potent in a lot of different ways.
Earth medicine.
Earth medicine. So I've really been getting into a lot more of the earth medicine.
And I feel like teas can be very spiritual because when we're talking about intuition and you have maybe 10 teas that you've collected from all the different places, you have to wake up every morning and go, what is my body needing today?
That's right.
You know, do I need a green tea? Do I need more of like a anti-inflammatory? Like you get to tap into your own body every morning in a sacred ritual and say, what are you needing? What earth medicine are you calling me to today? So
And it's funny because I always thought teas were the little tiny ground up tea leaves, but some of my teas have sticks and bark, and I'm like
berries
trying to jam them into my steeper. I'm like, get in there. But they're great for respiratory problems. I've had at the stage where I've had hot flashes now, so those types of things, and it's just, and when I want to really relax and meditate, then I have my meditated teas. So yeah, I would have to say that teas are my primary go-to right now.
Yeah, I love that. So then what is your go-to spiritual practice?
I know this is going to be so cliche, but my biggest practice is meditation.
Yeah.
It's always meditation and gratitude. That is my biggest go-to. No matter where I am, if I find myself in a situation that has me anxious or bound up or feeling out of sorts, I can seriously just stop and go into myself and figure out very quickly now what it is, and you can meditate. It doesn't have to be for an hour. You can meditate for 30 seconds. It really is the practice of being able to go internally and hear what your internal self is saying. So that is definitely my biggest spiritual practice right now.
And I think a lot of our primary practitioners share that.
Absolutely.
But for some reason, that's something I really truly have to work on. I couldn't even tell you the last time I meditated. And even though I know how vital it is, but like when you're out of the habit, you're out of the habit, and getting back into it always feels a little weird.
Well, that's because everybody thinks meditation is I'm going to sit Indian style on the floor, or I'm going to lay prone on the bed. I'm going to put on the music, and I'm going to have a candle burning, and everything has to be absolutely perfect. I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to hum through everything. And for some people, that's great. And a lot of times I do that. So really to meditate is just simply quiet yourself. So you say that you don't meditate anymore, but I bet you do. Because I bet you sit still for a few minutes and you're like, okay, what is it I want to do? What is it that I'm feeling right now? Even when you said, in the morning about the teas, where you sit there and you quiet yourself and you ask yourself, what does my body need today? That is a form of meditation because you're turning internal.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good
meditation
point.
doesn't have to be about connecting to the universe every time.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it's about connecting to your internal self and listening to what those indicators are.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because I think I do that when I work out. Because I'm just like kind of tapped in, the music's playing, and the other day at the gym, I had like the most amazing idea for Holistic Soul Sister. I remember I was on the stepper and I was like, oh, and guess what? I lost it. I didn't write it down. I didn't put it in my notes section. I moved on with my workout and I thought, it's so great. I'll come back to this. And it's been over a week and I'm like, God, please bring it back to me.
So that just simply means that it's a great idea, but it's not meant for right now. Ooh. And if you remembered it, you would have focused on it, and you don't need to focus on it.
Ooh, okay. So it just gives me like anticipation of there's more to come.
Like there's more to come. It's not yet time, but when it's time, that idea will come.
Thank you. See, this is why I love her, because she is like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, you just are such a light that you help me make sense of my life in so many ways.
I wish you made sense of my life.
That's what I'm here for.
Yes, that's what you're here for.
Exchange of energy.
Exchange of energy for sure.
So I know I could talk all day about what you do, but I want to hear it from you because I think you just have such clarity around your gifts. So can you explain to our Holistic Soul Sisters, what is your area of expertise?
So, my area of expertise, we're going to label it an energetic transformational practitioner, which seems like a mouthful, I know, but I can't say shadow chaser because people would think I'm crazy, right? So I'm giving it that label so that people will understand what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And once we break it down, you'll understand what I'm doing. But I have been built to be able to face the darkness within people and help them to fight it. So that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you kind of break down all the words of your title, I think that's super helpful too, right? Practitioner means you do many things.
I do. So when I look at my title, and the reason why that came about was actually with a lot of help from Mandy Rose over here, because I struggle with titles because I have been very blessed with multiple gifts and how to use them and put them together and make sense so that people will know how to come to me. And that was really important for me because when I deal with anybody, it's all about energy. Whether I'm fighting dark energy or I'm wielding light energy, it's all about the energy. And then what that transformational is multi-layered as well, because not only will it help you transform your life, but it helps to transform the dark energy back into the space it needs to be in, which is well far away from us.
Yes.
Or to transform a feeling and to find the right way to look at it so that you can now face it and we can clear it out. So I make fun and say I'm a shadow chaser, but honestly, I'm a shadow chaser and I wield light to burn it away.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it seems very, from the outside or someone who's just kind of getting into spirituality, they're like, oh my God, darkness, right? Because there's such there's such a stigma around it, but it's a part of our reality, right? You can't have light without dark. You can't have joy without sadness. Like you need these places to have contrast. And so what I love about you and what I learned is going into places of darkness are not as scary when you have someone who is comfortable there. And you're like, I've been through darkness. I can hold space in this darkness. And so we're going to go together. You're not going to be alone. And that could be your own personal darkness, right? Like that could be your own kind of, maybe your mess ups or your past or things that you're not proud of or ways that you're trying to like grow. But they can also be darkness that exists outside of you, entities and vulnerable kind of energies that you expose yourself to unknowingly. And I think that is something you've really taught me, that if you walk into a space and something feels off, like it's probably off.
It's probably off, but what people don't realize is we have total control, right? The darkness can't control us. We control the darkness. So no matter what that form is, right? So funny story. I'm sure we all remember the movie The Sixth Sense.
Yep.
Do you remember that movie with Bruce Willis and the little boy that saw dead people? And he's like, I see dead people,
yeah,
right?
Yep.
So when I first saw that movie, I was so freaked out by it because the first time that I saw a spirit was when my grandfather passed away and I was 5. And he literally had a conversation with him on my bed, talking to him. And then the next morning, my parents came to tell me that my grandfather passed away. And I was like, well, no, I just had a conversation. And they're like, no, he's been in the hospital. And my buddy was right here. And so my whole life, I've had these gifts since birth, right? All of us have our gifts. And mine have been active since birth, but I have ignored them because I didn't know what they were, because for a long time it was woo-woo.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, you're of the devil if you do that or you think that or you see that. So as my life progressed, I always asked the question, why, God, why are you putting me through this? Why are you putting me through this? Why are you putting me through this? And I realized that God was putting me through that so that I can do what I do today. Because you can sit across from me and tell me the most horrific thing. And okay.
Yeah.
Right? I got you. And so he was creating me to be that shield, to be that protector, and to wield the light.
Yeah.
Right? And so I have that space now where I can do that. And I do like to help people to understand that just because I deal with darkness doesn't mean I'm dark.
Yeah.
Because if I wasn't,
that's the transformational part of your title. You take it, which it already exists, right? Even if we ignore something, it doesn't mean it goes away.
It gets bigger.
It gets bigger. So you take it, grab it by the hands, and transform it into something that feels lighter, more positive, that you can work with.
That you can work with. Something you can face, something you can work with. and then flip side.
Yeah. Can you give our Holistic Soul Sisters an example of something that you've worked with someone on transforming when it comes to the energy? Because I think as a concept, it's like, okay, I get what she does, but like, give us an example of something you've actually helped someone transform energetically.
So how crazy do you want me to get? Because there's some crazy stuff.
We are here for it. Girl, we are here for it.
There is some crazy stuff.
If you are a part of this community, you are open and you are wanting to hear this. So,
there are a lot of different things. So I don't know if I'm sure a lot of you have heard, everybody has a door, this door to light and dark, right? And when you crack the door, if you're light on the other side, the darkness sees the light and they creep towards it because that's what the darkness is attracted to is the light.
Oof, yes.
And so you have these entities on the other side that are both good and bad. Mm-hmm. So the goodness is going to be drawn to the light because light enjoys light, but the darkness is going to be drawn to the goodness. And so you have people who inadvertently, right, without them knowing, have cracked this door. And they've allowed the darkness to start creeping closer and closer, and they feel anxious and they feel depressed and they feel, all of this emotion that they don't know what it is. They think they're going crazy or their life's not good. This is a relatively new one, which is why I'm using this one. It happened last year, right? Mm-hmm. We were on the beach doing drum circles and everybody had left, and a couple of people in the drum circle understood that I did something, right? Like energetically, they could feel my energy.
And I think also too, you're very protective of your energy. Like you don't like to hug people on first impression. Like This woman is so gifted that she can hug you and sense what's going on in your life. And not just like what happened to you today, but like your entirety.
Well, and I am protective of my hugs. I love to hug. Don't get me wrong. If I'm shielded and I'm prepared, I can hug the world. But a lot of times when I'm out and I'm doing these drum circles or I'm doing some spiritual work, I open myself up to feel it all, to understand who needs me. Mm-hmm. And there was a woman on the beach who brought a friend who brought her daughter. And at the end of the drum circle, everybody was leaving and she came up to me and she goes, "Can you hold my daughter's hand?" And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, what? And she's like, "Can you hold her hand?" And I'm like, "Okay, why?" And she goes, "Well, my daughter's got a lot of gifts and she's got some things going on right now. And I'm just wondering if you can help her." So I'm like, okay, which is nice because the sand and the water is a great place to transmute that dark energy. Mm-hmm. So I was like, sure. So I reached out and she put her hand in mine. And the first thing I sensed was a girl that is meant to be a powerhouse. So one of my gifts is definitely to be able to identify those that are truly gifted, right? That are housing a gift from God that is waiting to be cracked open. And so that was the first thing I sensed. The second thing I sensed was this wave of darkness and what I am going to label as malevolent evil, right? Mm-hmm. And I leaned over and I threw up on the beach. And I was like, okay, we have a problem here. And she goes, "Well, look at this." And she pulls out her phone and she shows me this picture of this entity on the other side of her window at her house. And I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, girl, where's that?" And she's like, "This is my house." She says, "And when I'm inside, I protect it. I don't, not sure of what I'm doing, but I'm praying over it and I feel like I'm surrounding it in light and it can't come in. But when we go outside of the house, it follows us." And I'm getting goosebumps now. And sure enough, the wind starts picking up on the beach. This cloud goes over the moon and I feel it. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's definitely following you." She goes, "But it's really attached to my brother, her younger brother." And so I was like, "Oh, that's not good." Right. And so what we did at that point was talked a lot. But while we were talking, I was slowly drawing the darkness out of her, right? Because she's not equipped to fight it. Mm-hmm. And so I would slowly draw the darkness out of her and basically let it attach to me so that I could fight it and then transmute it and let it go.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and as I'm doing it, I'm feeling this entity, and it was pretty bad.
Powerful.
It was pretty powerful. And so I've got it coming. And once we were done, she was like, oh, "What did you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to take care of it for you." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I can feel it," right? She could feel the lightness. And I was like, "Great. Now where's brother?" Right? Where's brother? And so I told her, I'm like, when you go home, you need to get brother.
Yeah.
And so they left, and the entity followed me home. Well, you ain't getting in my house.
Nope.
Let me tell you that. Not only do I live in it, but so does a druid priestess. So you ain't getting in my house. So I went out into my yard, and I dealt with it and sent it back to where it needed to go. And I helped her close her door.
Yeah.
Because that's what you have to do. It's the door. It's what I call a door. I very clearly in my mind see it as a door, and I help them to close and lock the door. So that was great. But then the next time I saw her, it was her brother, her boyfriend, her mother, and her dog. And I didn't even know they were coming on the beach, but right behind me, they walked on the beach, and I immediately felt this dark energy. And I was like, "Oh my God, what is that?" So they all come and they sit down, and I'm playing, and I'm looking over, and one of my girlfriends is sitting next to me. I'm like, "Do you feel that?" And she's like, "Yes, I do. What is it?" I'm like, "It's over there." So I just went over to say hi to everybody, and I put my hand on everybody's shoulder, and I was like, "Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you?" And everybody was fine. Then I reached down to pet the dog.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, and there he is. So this is where the entity decided to hide, because the dog was going outside, and the entity is hiding in the dog. And so it's a thing, right? So I just, at that point, stroked the dog for about 15 minutes, cleared the dog. It was like, okay, we had to do the whole thing again. But the next time I saw the whole family, they were lighter.
Yeah.
They were happier.
Yeah.
They haven't seen it anymore. They don't feel that dark presence. So it was really a very interesting situation, because it was coming at them from multiple directions. And it was really kind of cool.
And to circle like all the way, that was almost a year ago now.
A year ago, yeah.
And that girl is thriving in her gifts. Like, yeah, I'll tell you after the recording, but like she's going to be around.
Who it is.
Yeah, and she's going to be around. And I think she's definitely going to be stepping into her intuitive gifts. Like, I get goosebumps.
She's super powerful.
But she wouldn't have been able to do that with this darkness following her. She would have always kind of played small. She would have always retreated.
She was very, it was heavy.
You're protecting yourself. So how can you step into your gifts and your way of changing the world when you're in such protection mode?
That's right.
So I think that's such a beautiful thing, that you give people the gift of moving forward in their life.
The gift of light.
Yeah, the gift of light. It's beautiful. So, I mean, you kind of touched a little bit upon your own journey, and you've been through a lot of things. So I know we could have a whole episode on your life journey. But what do you feel are like kind of the main things that have occurred over the course of your life that have led you to this moment, to transform and work with the darkness for other people?
It's funny. There have been horrific things that have happened throughout my life that we could get into. Honestly, I don't believe in getting into those things.
Yeah.
I tell people if they need to know it, but for me, I look back at it as a learning experience, and I survived, right? But my journey in really accepting my spirituality started 10 years ago. After I was divorced of a marriage of 17 years, we were together for 20 years, had 3 kids. I thought this was my soulmate. We were going to be together forever, and next thing you know, we're divorced. And I was crushed. I was at this place where I'm like, oh my God, but I knew there was more for me. I just knew it. And 3 beautiful women out in Utah, I started working with them. And one of them comes up to me and says, "Have you ever heard of the land of ayahuasca?"
Grandmother was calling you.
Grandmother was calling me. And I was like, "No, I don't know what that is." And she goes, "Well, I have a weekend plan. I'm going to give it to you." She's like, "Just bring your dress in light clothing, bring your blanket, and off you go." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, for those of you that have ever heard of the land of ayahuasca, you don't just go there not knowing what's going on." But I did. It was the beginning of opening myself up and accepting that these things that have happened to me throughout my life have happened to me to create a solid soldier.
Yeah.
I am a solid soldier in the light, and it's my higher power is God. I will always say my higher power is God. God is my source. God gives me my powers. And it's great because when people come to me from the religious realm and say, well, you shouldn't be reading cards, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, I've learned over the years that that's not the case, because there are many places throughout the Bible that says God gave us his gifts.
Yep. They're your gift to
He
help
gave
heal.
us the gift of knowledge, the gift of healing, the gift of tongues, the gift of prophecy, all of these gifts. And so I get it. But so 10 years ago, I'm in this space and I'm like, oh, good Lord, what am I doing now? And I thought I was crazy. I'm hearing voices, I'm seeing things. I'm like, okay, I'm crazy. So I started my journey.
Yeah.
And in that journey, I learned along the way, and God doesn't just tap me on my shoulder and go, hey, you're going to learn this now. He bludgeons me over my head, sends me down to the ground, and I'm like, okay, I'm bleeding. I get it. And then just, I've been able to learn as I grow what all of that really means, right? And I have done a lot of things, but I was brought down to my knees. Yeah. I went through my dark night of the soul several times.
Yeah,
it wasn't just a one-time thing. Many times, which many of us do. But my soul grew stronger for it.
Yeah, and I, even just from hearing your stories and stepping into your gifts, that's a journey in of itself. It's not like one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm a medium and I can read energy. It's like learning to actually deal with that, on a human level, to explain that to people and to honor that and accept it in society and not like judge yourself. But then also like actually the gift itself. How do you use it? What is it for? And I remember, when we first met, and I'm so open, I believe in all the higher powers and these gifts. And I remember you were telling me a story about how you would see these entities and they would come to you and they would come like all busted up. Oh, yeah. And I was like, wait, what? Like, oh my God, if some dude come to me in the next lifetime and I see him all jacked up, I would freak out, because that's not my gift. It was your gift that you had to learn to work through.
But I learned very early on, right? This is that triple Aries in me. Don't come to me all busted up. And I look at him, and one of my girlfriends was with me one night, and we were just sitting around talking. Of course, we were doing a journey, but we were sitting around talking, and we had this crystal that very clearly has a portal in it. And I looked at it, and I was like, nope, you've got to go back in there and fix yourself up. Don't come to me busted up. If you want to come talk to me, you've got to come to me normal so that I can sit down and have a conversation with you. I don't look up no busted up. That's that whole I see dead people thing from that Sixth Sense movie. And I know mommy doesn't play that game.
Yeah.
No.
It's like, I will help you get to the light, but don't come to me all jacked up. I will help you get
to the light, but you got to come to me looking right so that I can actually look at you and not want to run in the other direction. But we have that power, right? The power of the light inside of us dictates how that darkness can approach us. And if I don't want it to approach me, I'm like, nope, you're back. I mean, I have my closed sign. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want it to happen. They cannot come forth. But that's owning your inner power.
And that's beautiful. That is definitely something you help people with as well. When they step into their gifts and it's overwhelming, and like you said, you were 5 years old. You did not know that it was a gift or what it was. But
I didn't know until I was like in my 40s, right?
And there's a lot of younger holistic soul sisters. The younger generation is being born more into these spiritual gifts. And so I think within our community, we have women who are 17, 18, younger, that know they have these gifts, but they haven't found that inner power yet on how to take control of it, right? And I think that was something you've taught me, is like being able to say, if I feel an entity, and sometimes in the middle of the night, I've woken up and I feel like something is on me, and you taught me, can you repeat the phrase for our holistic soul sisters? It was,
you have to go back to the place in the universe that you belong. Just go back to the place in the universe that you belong, because this ain't it.
Yeah, that was like a big thing. And I've done that now. I've woken up in the middle of the night, and I remember it happened like night after night. And I was like, all right, Lisa said, and I immediately, even out loud, Sasha was sleeping. I don't know if he woke up, but I was like, you do not belong here. You cannot stay, and you need to go back to wherever you came from. That's right. And it never came back.
That's good.
And I was like, ah. And a couple of times I've seen entities again, in the night. But it hasn't felt that, like, it's like in a distance, like it's peeking around the corner. And I'm like, it's okay. I can deal with you over there. but you cannot get on top of me and try to suffocate me in my sleep.
Yes.
So that is something she helps women with as well.
I do. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So what is your why? Because I mean, this is a gift that takes a lot of energy and control. So you have a strong why.
My biggest why is because God said so.
Mm-hmm.
To put it very bluntly, which is why I'm so different from everybody else, by the way. It's hard right now. It's very hard right now. But we're in a huge spiritual awakening, and we need to be able to heal and my why is to give my light to others.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My why is to help those fight through the darkness, because I know what it's like to live in the dark. And I don't want others to have to be there, because a lot of the times it's a darkness you've self-imposed on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's because of your unawareness or your inability to shield or to do those things. And so I'm housed with all of this. And I use the words power, and I feel so silly when I say that, because it's like, oh, my ego is this big. But it really isn't, because I don't know what other word to use for it.
It is. It's a force.
But it is a force. It's a force inside of me, and it's very simply because I want to heal others. And that's all it's about.
And it just spreads light.
And it just spreads light. I mean, I am the lightning rod. I was very clearly told that. We can talk about that in a little bit. But my job on earth is to spread the light and heal others.
Yeah.
And
you know it.
And I know it. And I've stepped into it, and I know it. And, with knowing comes power. With power comes peace of mind and a surety that what I'm doing is right.
Yeah, 100%. And, there are a lot of practitioners out there that do mediumship and healing and light working and all the things. So can you kind of share with our Holistic Soul Sister community, like, what makes you unique? Like, what is your unique how and how we go about transforming?
I don't know if you can tell, but I am truly an Aries. I'm very bold and brass, and I have a huge masculine energy. I am born a protector, a guardian, a shield, right? No matter what name you use for it, I am there to hold the space, build the container, make sure you're safe while we're fighting what we need to fight. And what makes me different is that how I go about doing it is just very straightforward.
Yeah.
It's just very straightforward. I mean, I can read your cards, but I don't need the cards, right? Mm-hmm. So why use the cards? But I'm not going to hold back.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what you need to know. And sometimes it crushes a person, right? I'm going to be honest with you on what you need to hear, because what I'm telling you is not coming from me. Mm-hmm. It's coming from my team, mm-hmm. right? I met a beautiful woman, also through Mandy, who said, let me talk to my team. And I was like, what? And she's like, well, my angels, my spirits, my guides, I have a whole team. And I'm like, well, I got a team. She's like, well, we'll call it a team. I'm like, I'm calling it Team Lisa. I got a team back here.
Yeah, it's the squad.
It's the squad, man. And so, it is a champion team. And mm-hmm. so I'm like, when I'm helping you, I'm not helping you.
Yeah.
I am channeling all of the help that you need. I mean, again, it clearly states that God has given us angels and spirits and guides to watch over us. I mean, wield the power of light and chase the darkness away. And I do it how I see fit. And if that means I need to take you by your hand and shake you a little bit, then I take you by your hand and shake you a little bit. And it's not a 12-week process. It's not going to pay me for the next 12 weeks and I too can clear your darkness away. Honey, I'm not going to let you sit there with an entity attached to you for 12 weeks because I want to make all of your money, right?
Like, we're doing this now.
We're doing this now. And if you want to come back to me to clear every now and then and stuff, that's fantastic. But my clients that come to me are no longer clients, now they're family, because one and done. We clear, we out.
And that's like the beautiful thing as a practitioner. No, you practice, you do the work to help transform the energy.
That's right.
But sometimes you mentor someone on how they can do it themselves. And sometimes you just educate so that they have an awareness of what's going on. So you really kind of do it all.
I do it all. I'm not going to, I'm going to show you how to I'm going to show you what I'm doing. How do you close the door and keep it closed?
Mm-hmm.
How do you clear your room?
Mm-hmm.
How do I build a container?
Mm-hmm.
I'm an educator. I want you to be able to do this on your own.
Yeah.
I don't want you to have to come back to me, although I will always be there for that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So with all this goodness, I would love to kind of hop into a little bit of education. Let's teach our holistic soul sisters some of your expertise.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to be talking about your inner child.
Oh.
Yes. Everybody's going to think I'm weird, but my team, my squad sits over my left shoulder all the time. So when they start talking to me, I tend to look at them when I'm talking, but apparently they want me to talk to you about recognizing your inner child.
Okay.
Okay. So everybody has an inner child, and that's usually where your shadows start. Unfortunately, many of us, our shadows will start in childhood. Some of us from birth, right? Because you have to remember, when we're nestled in our mommies are feeling these emotions. So if they're under a lot of stress, or they're dealing with a lot of darkness, depression, anxiety, fear, whatever that is, they're putting it into us. We're feeding off of that energy. So those 9 months that we're in there growing and feeding off of our moms, we're feeding off of their energy. So if there's a dark energy that they're wielding, right, that they're living with, we're naturally born with a shadow.
Yeah.
We're naturally born with that dark energy. And so that inner child grows with us and stays a child. Normally you'll find them huddling in a corner, right? Recognizing that inner child is difficult, because that means you're facing the childhood trauma. You're facing that childhood shadow. Some people don't recognize it at all because it does happen so young. They just don't know how to get there. My advice for that is to seek someone like myself, who can go internally and help you navigate those hallways until you find the room where they're hiding. But once you find them, once you go internally and you allow yourself to seek your inner child. So I'm going to use the word meditation, but really it's just going in quietly and seeking your inner child. Your mind will guide you. And the concept of I'm making this up in my head is false. Because where your mind starts to lead you is where you need to go. Where we run into problems is when we fight it, right? When we start thinking, oh, what am I making this up? Why am I doing this?
Questioning.
You're questioning it. Just release it and allow yourself to go. You will inevitably run into this child. And it could be in a corner of a room. It could be on a Ferris wheel at a carnival. It could be on the beach. It could be in your closet. There are so many places. It doesn't have to be in a dark, scary place. Sometimes our inner child hides where they were most happiest. And so just allowing yourself to find that road that leads you to where they are. Then the hardest point is to get them to reach out. That's where the journey begins, because it's all about trust. Because you're an adult looking at this child, and 9 times out of 10, it was the adult that caused the trauma. And so this child is afraid to reach out. So you have to start building the trust, and it's a process. You cannot expect it to happen overnight. Building the trust with your inner child is a process. And it starts with facing the trauma, right? Facing that trauma. Now here's the trick. Your inner child's not going to want to face it. Right? So it's not your inner child that's going to face the trauma. It's your adult self. Whether you're a teenager, an adult, a grandparent, whatever. It's your grown up self that's going to face that trauma. Just admit it out loud. And I guarantee you, when you say it out loud, this has happened to me, you're going to see them lift their head. They're going to go, huh? Because now there is it happened. I know it happened. There's the acknowledgement of it. and they're going to lift their head. And that's where the connection begins. And it might take a while, but slowly you'll get closer and you'll go a little bit, they'll hunker back. You need to know to pull back a little. And then, like with a dog, when you go to the, I hate to put it that way, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. But when you go to the pound and you're trying to pick out your dog and you see this wounded animal that you want so badly,
love it so much.
You just slowly start to put your hand out. Sometimes you'll bite it, and you got to start all over again. But that's where the journey begins. And once you have that inner child in your hand, then the light shines. Because now you're going to pull them out of the shadow, right? Because even if you find them on a Ferris wheel, there's going to be a shadow over them. There's going to be that heaviness, right? It's not necessarily dark. It's a heaviness that you feel. So when people say, oh, I can feel your darkness, it's not that they see this black thing. It's that they feel your heaviness.
It's almost like density.
Yes.
It's when we feel the weight on our shoulders. Yes. It's like, I know I have a lot of responsibilities, but you feel weighed down. It's the energy of what exists. And
that's right. It's a dense.
And you can't imagine if you're trying to swim, in water and it's really heavy, that feeling. And you're like, I'm trying to swim. But imagine if you're just swimming through the air like a bird. It's like, whoo, I'm free floating. That's the light.
That's the light.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way of putting it too. So once you have your inner child and you can start bringing them out of that denseness, right? It's like, I love that analogy. I don't know why this is in my head right now. I know why this is in my head right now. It's like reaching through Jell-O and grabbing them and pulling them out. And you'll start to see that they can move more of their body and they're pulling out. Once you have that inner child out of that darkness, out of that heaviness, out of that, now it's the confrontation of, let's talk about how this happened. I'm so sorry this happened. Acknowledge it. Let it go. Right? I'm taking this from you. I'm no longer going to let you live underneath the weight of this.
Yeah.
And that's when you start stepping into the light.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, I think a lot of people say, oh, I had a great childhood. I can't remember anything traumatic. But like you just mentioned at the beginning, this happens in the womb.
In the womb.
This is energy that's already kind of happening. And there is no judgment on any mother because they're going through life.
Yes.
They're experiencing life. They're going to have negative emotions. No one lives in rainbows and butterflies, especially probably not during pregnancy. I've never been pregnant, but there's going to be emotions that come up.
But you have to remember too, Mandy, that my mother was in a mother.
Yeah.
And it's generational. This goes all the way back. And there's a wonderful practice called the 13th rite of the womb that allows you to heal as a woman, to heal your womb from all of the generational heaviness that has been carried generation to generation. So when you start looking at it from that perspective, your mother could be the happiest person in the world. Her mother could have been a nightmare.
And it's so interesting because that's actually the journey that I'm being called to next. And something I've already started working on last year with Rose, my friend Rose, because looking at my ancestry, German, going through World War II, there is a whole lot of ancestral trauma that my DNA has been exposed to. Fear, starvation, fighting for survival. And I know that was in the womb of my grandmother. That was passed on to my mother. And now I'm 36 years old going, do I want to have kids or not? And I'm like, I've never wanted to have kids. But is it because I intuitively know how much darkness is in my womb? And I'm now aware, and I'm now at that age where I'm ready to face it, and then we'll see what's on the other side of that. But it's not easy. And, when I saw Rose, we did a meditation. She was like, something happened right before birth, that your mother carried a heavy emotion. Have you ever talked to her about that? I was like, no, she's always described it as a beautiful experience. Her baby girl, she was so excited to be pregnant. It took her so long to get pregnant. She was so ecstatic. But then as I intuitively channeled in, like you said, I remember the tension between my mother and my father, and that he went out partying the night before she gave birth. And I'm like, oh my God, that feeling, she must have felt alone and isolated and abandoned. And here I am about to come earthside. feeling that vibration, right? And it's like none of these
right.
things in my whole life have I ever considered, but I know in hindsight, had I dealt with this in my 20s, I would have been even more of a force in my life,
God,
relationally, professionally, personally. Like, had I healed this stuff forever ago, but I didn't know. And like you said, I didn't have the awareness. I didn't have the education. There wasn't podcasts like this or ways to find these resources. So it's truly is
really
necessary.
Important to be aware. If I could go back to my younger 20 self, boy, the things that I would tell her, right? I mean, most of it I would just be like, "Oh, girl, you're having fun." But there's a lot of things that if we could go back and change, we would. The unfortunate thing is none of us can go back in time.
Right.
You just can't. And you can't make those changes. What you can do is face them. You can face them. You can understand them. And you have two choices. It's a very clear-cut choice. You can let it weigh you down, or you can let it lift you up. And I have always let it lift me up. I mean, when I was in my mother's womb, she wanted to abort me. She hated being pregnant. She didn't want to be pregnant with me, but back then, abortion wasn't a thing, right? You had your babies. And she made it very clear to me throughout my life that I was an unwanted person on this earth, right? Which causes a lot of heaviness. So I was born into a very dark, heavy environment. And I carried that with me for years and years because I didn't know. It was nobody talked to you about spirituality. Nobody said, "Hey, I mean, when I walk into a room and I feel a heavy energy, I zone in on that person."
Yeah.
Because I want to go over to them and talk to them and engage in a conversation. And I don't walk up to them and go, "Hey, I feel a heavy energy with you. We need to talk." I just go and talk to them and see if we can make a connection.
Yeah.
And if the connection is there, then I will, work towards finding a way to help them.
So do you feel like that's kind of like a good place to start then? Is that inner child healing? Like
Absolutely.
For everyone, across the board, doesn't matter how good, bad, negative, positive your childhood was.
Across the board, I would say seeking out your inner child. And to be honest with you, some people got a little inner child and they're out there, they're dancing around, right? So if your inner child's in there dancing around and you're feeling not so dancing around, you better hug onto her, start dancing with her, right?
That's a good point.
Right? It's like seek your inner child because your inner child is either in a traumatized state or in a very happy state.
And you need to get back to that.
You need to get back to that, right? I am that toddler. I know that you always say these
I love it.
I mean, I'm a triple Aries, honey. I am the biggest toddler in the world. I run around, I make jokes, I'm happy, I'm very like, well, life happens, let it happen kind of thing. But it's not because I haven't gone through the trauma. It's because I found my inner child very late in life, but I found her. It took a long time to coax her to even look up at me because there's a lot of things I had to acknowledge. And then once I did and she looked up and we held hands and I was able to pull her out of that corner, life changed. Life changed.
Oh, I love that. This is definitely some good info.
If you are having a hard time finding that inner child, call me. Call me.
That's why you need that support system and that team. And it's hard to go to dark spaces alone. So I mean, there is no shame in acknowledging that. It is freaking hard.
It is hard, and I can help you chase down your inner child. We can find them and navigate them and get them out of it.
So what do you feel is like the most common reason people come to you? Like what is going on in their life? Like if one of our holistic soul sisters is listening and they're like, okay, I know this is my practitioner. This is the one that's going to help me. Like, what are those common signs that people come to you and they're like, this is going on in my life, help?
Usually it is, I'm feeling depressed. I have a lot of anxiety. I've had a constant headache or I have a constant backache because all of these things are emotional symptoms. They all start with energy first. And so they'll come to me for that. One of the biggest reasons people come to me, though, is generally because they're having a problem with someone else in their life.
Yeah, relational
problems for sure. Or they're feeling their like a presence.
Ooh, yes.
So I hear that one a lot. It's like you said, I'm feel like somebody's always watching me. I'm always afraid. I can't sleep with the lights off. I can't sleep with my closet door open. I can't, I feel this
something.
presence.
Something. And sometimes they don't even know how to verbalize what the thing is. They just feel off.
They don't.
They feel off.
That's right. They feel off. There's something, I just feel,
They don't feel like themselves.
That's right. And I'm like, well, let me figure out what the is, right?
And sometimes that can happen, like you're at a space in your life, usually when things are going good, right? You're of light, you have the dream job, you have a great relationship, like you are of light and you're feeling so good. And like you said earlier, darkness sees the light and is like, ooh, I want some of that light. And now here comes the dark energy. And now you go from being this thriving, happy person. Look at my life as an example in 2018. And then boom, an entity attached to me when I was in Amsterdam, of all places, not meaning to harm me. It later find out the entity was my ancestors who hadn't seen anyone that they recognized in Amsterdam ever. I'm the first one in my lineage to go there. And they connected, but it shifted my whole energy. I now had anxiety. I felt off. I couldn't sleep. Like I went into a tailspin, which led to physical symptoms. But that happens to people. Their life is going good, and then boom, crash.
Yes, it happens a lot because people are not understanding what that is.
Yeah, I thought it was anxiety.
Exactly, and that's what I'm telling you. A lot of people will think they're depression and anxiety or weight problems. Like I struggle with my weight. I struggle with my weight because I'm holding on to it as a shield.
Right? When women come to you and they're having these physical things going on, it's like, hey, there's an energetic underlying thing that we have to transform, make lighter.
Yeah, there's a lot of things people come to me for very differently. Here's the one thing I can say holds true with all of them. If you stop and ask yourself, am I where I want to be emotionally right now in my life? And the answer is no, then come to me.
Yeah.
Because that's all about energy.
Yeah.
All about energy.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you feel is your most popular service? Like what are the things that people...
Besides card reading?
Yeah. What do people...
That's the thing. Really, it is, to date, it has been clearing space. Releasing dark entities back to where they went and shutting the door.
So that could be like emotionally, it could be in their home, right? Sometimes you clear energies out of homes.
Yeah, so right now there is a woman who lives in another state, and I got a picture that showed, she took a picture and it was wild. She could show it to you, but it was wild. And I looked at it and I was like, whoa. I'm like, oh, okay, we've got a problem here. There's entities everywhere. But it appears that her spouse, her husband, has a big doorway open. And you can see the dark energy being drawn through him. Literally see it in the picture. And so I'm like, yeah, we definitely need to do a clearing. So I actually go out of state and I'll, help to clear the spaces out. I can clear a lot over the phone. Sometimes when you have a big situation, you have to go out there. So
And I'm just transforming it.
Yeah, I transform it, right?
Yeah.
I take that energy and transform it. It's funny because, I am the storm. I am the lightning rod. What does that mean? I mean, it took me months and months and months to figure out what did that mean when you're telling me I'm the lightning rod and I am the storm. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? But it simply means I have the energy to get it done, to clean it up, to make things new.
So that can come in something as simple as like a 1-hour card reading, or it could be like going in deeper emotionally and having those in-depth conversations. And it can also be like coming into someone's space and doing like a whole clearing. Beautiful. So a lot of different ways that someone can actively work with you.
For sure.
So if one of our holistic soul sisters is watching the show, listening to the podcast and saying, all right, this is my girl, this is what she can help me with, what do they do next? How do they get a hold of you?
So you can get a hold of me on Facebook at Elegant Hippie, or you can get a hold of me on Instagram at the eleganthippiechick. Also, you can email me at theeleganthippie@gmail.com. We'll have all that information for you down in the bio. The best thing to do is to reach out to me via email, and then we'll get on a phone call together. We'll talk a little bit about where you're at right now. what you're feeling, and I'll let you know if it's something I can help you with or not. And then from there, we'll decide what the best course of action is.
Yeah. And something really unique about Lisa is when you get on the phone with her, she's going to be able to feel your energy. So we definitely advise you to get on that call, no pressure, because through text or email, like she's not going to be able to feel out everything that's going on. So
I definitely need to call. We need to talk. And honestly, people laugh because not everybody's a client.
Yeah.
I have no problem saying, you know what, sweetie, that's just not something I can help with, or let me point you in the direction of the practitioner that can really help you the most.
So what is something you have coming up? Do you have any kind of sneak peek behind the scenes that you want to share with us? What's going on behind the scenes in your business that you're
So I kind of touched on it a little bit. I'm looking at going mobile. I have people who are all over the United States that need help.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always been a hit or miss. Now we're going to look at going nationally. So if you're in, Utah or Arizona or someplace and you need help, then we can talk about how to get me there and how to make that happen for you.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important because there are a lot of places that don't have access to potent, powerful healers. And so for you to be able to create space in your life and in your time and all your busyness to allocate more opportunities for you to travel is beautiful. I'm looking forward to that.
I am looking
Maybe I'll hitch a ride along. You get a 2 for 1.
Get a 2 for 1. I'll come in and clean your space, and then she'll come in and get you all healthy.
I love that. And we also have coming up our 11/11 event. I'm so excited. If you've been a part of the Holistic Soul Sister community since the beginning of 2023, you probably remember we were putting together an astrological New Year event, a 1-day retreat. We put a lot of hard work into it. Amazing practitioners, daily activities throughout the day. A sound bath, a cacao ceremony, a drum circle, a healing shamanic teepee, and it's going to be 10 times more magical than what we'd already started creating.
And 11/11, I mean, that's just a magical time to do it for sure.
Yep.
So, I mean, Mandy knows all the astrology behind it. I leave that to her, but and just live artists are going to be on site, and we're going to be able to come do mini Reiki sessions, and I mean, just a lot of beautiful energy of beautiful people. Different things that you would not necessarily think about in the spiritual community. It's going to be great.
And that was really our intention as we decided to put together this 1-day wellness retreat. Is a lot of people are just getting into their spiritual journey, and they've heard of Reiki and they've heard of card readings, but there's so many other unique ways to go about your healing. And the same thing in the holistic health space. We know about going to a holistic doctor and getting our blood drawn, but what about ice baths? What about chiropractor? What about craniosacral therapy? So we're inviting practitioners that you have probably never even heard of, that you get to experience in many formats.
I'm so excited
to see, what else exists,
so
and to kind of feel it out with your own intuition and start working on your healing journey.
And there's an educational tent. So we'll be in there. Different practitioners will be in there educating you, not just doing the service, but talking to you about why and how it's done and what it helps. And
it's going to be an all immersive day. I'm so looking forward to it. It's on a Saturday, so we set that up for our Holistic Soul Sisters so they can take, the time.
It's the whole day. And if you don't want to come for the whole day, you don't have to.
You don't know.
It's your day.
You get to customize it.
About it. It's just, and it's going to be in a beautiful environment.
Yeah. So you'll get the schedule of activities, and you can say, oh, I want to come for this or that. I want to get these services. You can sign up with the practitioners ahead of time, so you can customize your whole day, or you can just show up and see where your body guides you.
Really, I mean, if you want to just lay on the ground on a yoga mat or even on the grass and just feel the energy around you for the whole day.
Yep. Whatever you want to do.
That might be me. Here's my story.
I love it. So yeah, you can look forward to that. We already have a Facebook event created, and once it gets a little closer, I'd say by the end of summer, we will be announcing the ticket sales, which we're doing a limited tickets.
Yes, limited.
That was a very big thing.
I couldn't get her to go to 200
No,
yet.
we settled on about 100 to create the safety container where people can come and get the personal experience. We have too many people. Not everyone's going to be able to get a massage.
Right. I mean, this is not like the
fair.
The wellness fair. this is a one-day retreat where you're going to be able to immerse yourself in these experiences.
So to wrap it up, can you share one last little piece of advice that you have for our holistic soul sisters, something that they can carry forward with them the minute that they end this podcast or this video and take with them?
So it's going to sound, you're going to be like, oh, everybody says that. Live in gratitude. So every morning when I get up, today is a great day. Today is an awesome day. Today I live in abundance, and today I'm going to prosper. Today is a great day. And then throughout the day, I am so grateful for today. I am grateful that I got out of bed in the morning. I am grateful for my great day. I am grateful for my job. Sometimes when I can't find anything to be grateful for, I am so grateful for the pillow under my head. I mean, it sounds so silly and people always laugh and they're like, yeah, everybody says that. But I gotta tell you, these people that have been doing this forever, the Abraham Hicks and the Louise Hay, and they know what they're talking about. You know, people become happy, productive, successful people because they do the work.
They make the choice.
Right. And so why would I reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
So my one piece of advice is every morning wake up with a mindset of a great day and be grateful for the smallest things in it.
It makes such a difference.
It makes such a difference.
Even the things that suck. Sometimes you got to be like, you know what? I am grateful that it wasn't worse.
And yes, I'm grateful. Thank you for making it not as bad as it could have been, right? I mean, thank you so much. I mean, people get speeding tickets and cuss out the cops and all of this stuff. And me, if I get a speeding ticket, I'm like, oh, thank you, God, that I did not get in an accident because I was going too fast.
Thank you for the reminder to slow down. Maybe it's not even a slow down on the road. It's a slow down in life.
I mean, you know, it's funny because you can only grow with challenges. And you and I were talking about this earlier. If life didn't present challenges, you would never grow.
You would be the same old person.
You'd be the same old person.
Why would you want to change if it's magical?
Right? But
our soul's here to do the things.
It's here to do the work.
Yeah.
We signed into a contract before our soul even came down to this plane.
Yeah.
And we're here to do the work. And some of us signed up for more work than others. Now, next time, just to let you know, the whole squad over here. Next time, I'm signing up for the easy road. I mean, like, what box do I tick for the easy road? That's the one I want. But yeah, it's all worth it.
That's a beautiful, beautiful message because when we can stay in that space, I truly think magic can happen for us.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you so much for spending your time with us, for sharing all your wisdom with our Holistic Soul Sisters. You can look forward to seeing Lisa a lot more in our community. She will be doing a Monday takeover. She will be sharing all of her knowledge with us. Probably have you back on the podcast for many other topics.
I'd love to come back.
Literally anytime we get together, we should just probably turn on a mic because it's wild.
It is wild. Some of the things we talk about, it's like, yeah, that needed to be on the podcast.
Uh-huh.
For sure.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.